So tell us, what are the methodologies for financing acquisitions?
I think there are a number of different methodologies, and they depend on the size of the acquirer, the jurisdiction of the target, the size of the target, the type, whether the acquirer is a public or a private company. The the most common ways to finance an acquisition include banking financing. So, for example, quite a few Russian clients with whom we deal would request VTB Capital to assist them with the financing and advice in terms of the international or domestic opportunity. The second, and the reason why you need the acquisition financing is because the seller would like to close the transaction quickly and swiftly, and they need proof of funding. Equity capital markets are much more volatile, so it's very difficult to raise financing in the equity capital markets in a short period of time. Once the acquisition is consummated, you could go and refinance the original facility. The refinancing sources would include ruble bonds, would include Eurobonds, and I'm talking about larger transactions. They would include equity refinancing, so there might be a component of private placement, there might be offering of public equity. So these are, in bulk, these are different types of financing available for an acquisition.
And we're seeing 75% of the Russian deals, whether they're domestic or cross-border, still funded domestically through loans and cash on the balance book. Is that right?
I think there are, for Russian corporates, not only for Russian, there are two major sources of financing, which is bank loans and cash. So the companies are very thoughtful about the amount of leverage prior and post-acquisition, because right now the environment is not the most stable, so they have to consider how the acquisition will impact the overall financial capability of the company. So loan financing. And I think the other aspect here is that the Russian M&A, I think 80% of the Russian M&A transactions are below $250 million, and majority of those are approximately up in the range of up to $100 million. So in that particular market segment, there aren't much any other instruments to finance the acquisitions.
Of course, the most exciting end is the Eurobonds for the larger international deals. We're seeing Russia is probably the biggest bond market, one of the biggest bond markets globally, and certainly the biggest in Eastern Europe. And also the ruble bond market, obviously very strong. I mean, how important are those pipelines for acquisitions?
The access to the international Eurobond market is very important because Eurobond market provides acquirers with a long-term financing source. And in the acquisition, if it's an international acquisition, most probably there is a less of a currency mismatch if the transaction is priced in dollars. Russian ruble bond market is a shorter-term financing. I think typically it's 3 years. The financing is available for 3 years only. But it's a very important source for domestic companies and for companies which are trying to refinance their acquisitions. So yes, in terms of the pipeline, it's very healthy. Last week we have closed 8 deals in the Eurobond and ruble bond market. This week there will be a number of announcements, and we have a very healthy pipeline for this next year.